Let's talk to Dave Mason, who's a crisis consultant, because, of course, we've got Gregg Wallace still all over the front pages this morning because he apologised for what he said the other day. Do you remember the other day we had a clip of him from Instagram saying basically that all of the problems that he had and were facing were being caused by middle-class women of a certain age? Well, here's what he said late yesterday to apologise for what he said the day before.
I want to apologise for any offence that I caused with my post yesterday and any upset I may have caused to a lot of people. I wasn't in a good headspace when I posted it. I've been under a huge amount of stress, a lot of emotion. I felt very alone, under siege yesterday when I posted it. It's obvious to me I need to take some time out now while this investigation is underway. I hope you understand, and I do hope that you will accept this apology.
Yeah, and I do hope that you get off the phone and probably Instagram as well. Dave Mason's here. Dave, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to see you. I mean, it's not a very edifying position for Gregg Wallace. I mean, everyone said when he made the previous Instagram post about how he was blaming middle-class women of a certain age, that was pretty unwise. Now the apology, I suppose, is not necessarily as unwise, but it's just like, just leave it alone. Just walk away for a bit.
Well, it's an absolute PR disaster. It's about as subtle and sophisticated as Alan Partridge meets Benny Hill in about the worst carry-on film you could ever imagine.
Yes.
All in one weekend. To summarise, what he should have done last week simply is acknowledge, and that's all he had to do, acknowledge the situation with those women.
Yes.
Dismissing how people feel and dismissing people's reality is an extraordinary lack of self-awareness, arrogance, and just the situation we've come to expect from people in positions of power operating in media organisations.
Yes. It does seem to be particularly bad in television, doesn't it?
No, it's bad in radio as well, in your industry. I've worked in both, and something you don't know me particularly, but I've been a producer and presenter on both sides of the microphone and the camera in TV and radio over the last 30 years. I've seen it in both. And there's radio talent who behave this way towards. Yes.
No, you're right. You're right. It's just, maybe I'm just reminded of the TV situation because it's more kind of prevalent in your mind. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think there's a BBC report coming in the next few weeks or possibly months about a particular BBC radio presenter who's been accused of all manner of things, and that's probably, I'm told, not going to be too edifying for them.
No, and we mustn't just BBC bash, of course. This is an industry-wide thing. I'm not keen on the idea of corporation bashing. This is across the whole industry, and it has been for the last 25, 30 years. What ITV, your own organisation, and the BBC and others needs to do is get to grips with this cultural shift of moving the power from the hands of highly paid talent where they exert control over junior members of staff, and the people who are the producers, the people who are the hard-working freelance directors and production staff who are simply doing their jobs must be listened to in terms of their day-to-day work, rather than being ridden roughshod.
But that's a slightly different thing, isn't it? That's a slightly different thing.
No,
it is. It is, I think.
No, it isn't. It isn't. No, it is and it isn't. Let me refer to your earlier caller who said, why didn't some of these women speak up? Now, Mike, I'm sure you've been in a TV studio over the years, and you know how many people are on the production floor. You had a call from a lady who said, why didn't these women speak up earlier? I don't know if you heard Kirsty Allsop on Channel 4 News over the weekend, who said, well, if you've ever been in a TV studio with 50 to 100 people there, and you're the one who speaks up and you're the one who makes a fuss, what tends to happen? You've disrupted people doing their work, you've disrupted the production schedule, you've created a slightly negative atmosphere on the floor if you're the one who speaks out. That's why many of these women probably didn't feel they could.
But then if you look at no, you hang on for a second. You spoke for a while. No, hang on a minute. Dave.
Let me make my point.
Dave, well, you make your point, but I've also got to make a point. As Mamiya, who works in this building, who's also been one of the women involved in this, had said to her broadcasting partner Stig Abel the other day, because he was on Times Radio talking about it, that she didn't do anything about it really at the time because it didn't really bother her that much. She didn't want it to happen to other people. But now she's talking about it, and that's fine, she can. But so, you know, the difficulty is that all of these things are nuanced, aren't they, in a way, unfortunately, and so you can't lump everything all together, I don't think.
Lump what together? Why is it nuanced? Surely misogyny and bad behaviour towards women of any age.
Well, no, hang on. Well, hang on. You've lumped everything together from the misogyny that's been accused of Gregg Wallace, and also of people pushing. Well, you haven't finished I haven't finished my sentence yet. Of people being pushed around and sort of bullied because they work as underlings in a production scenario where the sort of the stars of the show are being horrible to them. That's two different things. That's what I mean in lumping people together.
Well, they're not entirely two different things. I think it comes down to the personality and the power that is bestowed on people who are in those positions. I've worked with them in TV and radio. As I say, I've seen that. I've seen lovely people being very collegiate and supportive of people coming up through the ranks, and I've seen some egregious behaviour from behind the scenes as well, and on national programmes that I've worked on.
And did you report those things?
Well, yeah, actually, in one case I did, and I had a manager who supported me, and very senior bosses in organisations saying, it's okay, it's the talent, you can't challenge a presenter.
But there were presumably other cases, but were there other cases that you didn't report, though?
No, not in my case, and this isn't about me. Can I just say one other thing about Gregg Wallace? I'm glad that you played that clip before I came on, because the clip where he's saying, I've had a really stressful weekend and it's been a really difficult time for me. At what point did he have the self-awareness to be able to put those women first? So as a crisis communications consultant, and that's why you've got me on here, I deal with organisations and corporate organisations and CEOs and leaders all the time, where we're encouraging them to put the people that have been either wronged or where there's been a shortcoming potentially, to put them first in an empathetic and compassionate way. At what point has he done that in the last week? He hasn't done that at all.
No,
and I think
that's part of the problem, isn't it? Because he doesn't get it, really.
And I absolutely agree with you there, Mike. And I think that is the point. You've summarised it perfectly. He doesn't get it. He is a member of the Don't Get It Club. And when you don't have that self-awareness, he's in a privileged position. What right does he have? Remember, it's a privilege, not a right to be a TV presenter and do what he does. What right does he have to come into our screens with all manner of people of all ages perhaps watching him, and all manner of people on his TV programmes, if he treats a section of those people with such dismissiveness, disdain, and frankly, misogyny.
And I'm not going to have a go.
Men need to speak up as well, not just women.
Yeah.
We need to speak up.
Yeah, no, listen. This is why I'm interested in, if you ever witness anything, whether you do anything about it, because I'm sure a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. But one of the things that I was saying...
A woman presenter pinched my bottom once.
Eh?
Sorry? A woman presenter pinched my bum once.
Did she? Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it? No.
Of course not.
No.
I said to her, if I did that to you, would that be okay?
And what did she say?
Just laughed it off.
And who was it?
I'm not telling you, of course.
Why not? Surely you've got to report these things, haven't you?
I'm just saying it happens on both counts.
No, I'm sure it does. But what I was going to say was that, you know, and it's not about whether it was the BBC or ITV or Channel 4 or whoever, the production company, but, I mean, if you've got a guy that thinks it's okay to run through a studio naked with a sock over his appendage, I mean, surely there's something wrong with that production company. There's something wrong with the people running the show as well. And I worry that those are the people that also need to be, you know, held before the court of public opinion, rather than just Gregg Wallace.
Two things. The production company needs to have definitely had a bit greater handle on this. If I hear one more corporate organisation saying we have robust processes in place, I will probably combust. The BBC also needs to have a better handle on its supplies. Remember, they have more than 50% of their TV programmes supplied from independent production companies now, and you can't simply say, oh, it's an outside production company.
Yeah.
We're working with them to see about changing things in the future. Conversations were had with Gregg Wallace a number of years ago, including commissioning editor in 2017, who sat him down. At what point was he given the one more strike and you're out, mate? Plus, it should be written into presenters' contracts, a line that sort of says, you can't behave this way, and if you do, you are out.
Yes.
It has to be a big cultural shift across the whole sector because of Hugh Edwards, because of Philip Schofield, because of allegations made against the likes of Tim Westwood, who you might have been referring to earlier.
Yes.
Before, and I also don't agree with cancel culture, by the way. So what he should have done, in my view, is acknowledged that these women had clearly come forward and they felt the need to come forward, and he could have done that last week. In crisis comms, you have to be very careful what you're saying sorry for. So that doesn't mean he had to say sorry at that point, but he should have acknowledged, okay, these women are coming forward, they've got something to say. It's too early for me to be able to say any more about that because there's an ongoing investigation, and I'll wait for the outcome of that. But what he could have done.
Absolutely. Dave, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Dave Mason, crisis consultant there, with his view on the whole Gregg Wallace scenario.